St Antony's College is one of the constituent colleges of the University of Oxford in England, founded in 1950 as the result of the gift of French merchants Sir Antony and Bessie of Aden. St Antony's is one of the most cosmopolitan of the University of Oxford's colleges and is considered to be a centre of excellence for study and research in the fields of international relations, economics, politics, and area studies. The college's areas of specialist study include Europe, Russia and the former Soviet states, Latin America, the Middle East, Africa, Japan, China, and South and Southeast Asia. The college is located in North Oxford, with Woodstock Road to the west, Bevington Road to the south and Winchester Road to the east. As of 2012, St Antony's had an estimated financial endowment of £30 million. History. St Antony's was founded in 1950 as the result of the gift of Sir Antony and Bessie of Aden, a merchant of French descent. In 1947, Bessie was considering giving around £2 million to the University of Oxford to found a new college. Ultimately, on the advice of his solicitor, R. Clyde, who had attended New College, Bessie decided to go ahead with the plan and permitted Clyde to approach the university with the offer. The university was initially unreceptive to the offer, and recommended that Bessie instead devote his funds to improving the finances of some of the poorer existing colleges. Eventually Bessie acquiesced, contributing a total of £250,000 in varied amounts to the following colleges: Keble, Worcester, St Peter's, Wadham, Exeter, Pembroke, Lincoln and St Edmund Hall. After this large contribution, the university decided to reconsider Bessie's offer to help found a new college and, recognizing the need to provide for the ever-growing number of postgraduate students coming to Oxford, gave the venture the blessing, and in 1948, Bessie signed a deed of trust appointing the college's first trustees. The attention of the university then turned to providing the new college, by then called St Antony's, with a permanent home. Ripon Hall was initially considered as a good option for a building in which to house the college, but its owners refused to sell, forcing the university to continue its search for premises. They looked at several properties in quick succession, including Yulbury, the Witham Abbey estate, and Manchester College, which was known to be in financial difficulties and which might thus consider the sale of its 19th-century Mansfield Road buildings. None of these options proved tenable, and the college began to look elsewhere. It is said that Bessie became very frustrated with the university and its apparent disinterest in his project at this point, and almost gave up any hope of its completion. However, the college finally acquired its current premises at 62 Woodstock Road in 1950. The college first admitted students in Michaelmas term 1950 and received its Royal Charter in 1953. A supplementary charter was granted in 1962 to allow the college to admit women as well as men, and in 1963 the college became a full member of the University of Oxford. By 1952 the number of students at St Antony's had increased to 27, and by the end of the decade that number had risen to 260, amongst whom 34 different nationalities were represented. The college initially struggled due to a lack of appropriate funding, and in the late 1960s serious consideration was given to uniting St Antony's with All Souls College when All Souls announced its intention to take a more active role in the education of graduate students. The plan did not come to fruition. All Souls rejected the proposed federal nature of the combined institution, saying they would consider nothing less than a full merger, a proposal which St. Antony's governing body did not support. St. Antony's lack of funds was partly solved under the wardenship of William Deacon, who devoted himself to college fundraising and secured a number of generous loans from the Ford and Volkswagen foundations. Since then, St. Antony's has almost constantly been financially insecure. This led to the cancellation of a number of proposed physical developments at its site on Woodstock Road. Not until the 1990s was it feasible for the college to embark upon a new building program. However, since then St. Antony's has continued to expand and open new specialist centers for the pursuit of area studies. The college is now recognized as one of the world's foremost centers for such studies. For the beginning, Bessie had expressed his hope that the new college, which he intended to open to men, irrespective of origin, race or creed, would prove instrumental in improving international cooperation and intercultural understanding. The college soon announced its primary role as such, to be a center of advanced study and research in the fields of modern international history, philosophy, economics and politics, and to provide an international center within the university where graduate students from all over the world can live and work together in close contact with senior members of the university who are specialists in the fields. The college is still true to its founding principle, remaining one of the most international colleges of the university, and home to many of Oxford's region-specific study departments. This latter feature, combined with the wardenship of William Deacon and St. Antony's reputation as a key center for the study of Soviet affairs during the Cold War, led to rumors of links between the college and the British intelligence services. The author Leslie Woodhead wrote to this effect, describing the college as the official annals of the university state that St. Antony's was one of 4 colleges, along with All Souls, Nuffield and Christ Church, which made a concerted effort to establish external links. In St. Antony's case, the college established wide-ranging connections with diplomats and foreign visitors. This is further commented on as having made the college perhaps more significant than any other single development in Oxford's adjustment to the contemporary international academic environment. The college's name alludes to its founder, whose name, Antony Bessie, is derived from the same linguistic root. For a long time it was not made clear whether Antony the Great or Antony of Padua was the intended namesake. The matter was finally settled in 1961, when the college finally deemed Antony the Great to be more the appropriate choice, due to his links to one of the college's prime areas of specialization, the Middle and Near East. Despite this, the college's banner is flown each year on both saints' days as a matter of tradition, and a statue of the wrong Antony of Padua, stands in the college's Hilda Bessie building. Buildings and grounds. The college's main building was built in the early Victorian era for the Sisters of Mercy at the behest of Marian Rebecca Hughes, the first woman to take monastic vows within the Church of England since the Reformation. The order commissioned Charles Buckridge, a local architect of some renown, to design the convent buildings. After initially proposing a circular design based on the symbolism of the Holy Trinity, Buckridge took to a more traditional approach and drew up the plans for what is now St. Antony's main building sometime before 1865. Whilst initially there were plans to enlarge the convent with a northerly extension, to which place was made in the building's design, further building never took place. The convent finally opened in November 1868. The total cost of the initial build came to £8,000, a considerable sum at the time. It is said that upon first seeing the convent's new premises, the architect William Butterfield commented that it was the best modern building in Oxford after my college, by which he meant Keble. St. Antony's acquired the former convent in 1950 after it had been vacated by the Sisters of Mercy in Halifax House, which had occupied the premises in the immediate post-war period. The building's chapel, which was never consecrated and now houses the main college library, was built in the years 1891 to Forter Buckridge's original design. The main building's undercroft, now the Gulbenkian Reading Room, was initially used by the nuns as a refectory, a role it continued to play until the completion of the Hilda Bessie building in 1970. After a number of ambitious schemes, one of which had been designed by the famed Oscar Niemeyer to enlarge the college in the 1960s, fell through due to lack of funds, the college decided to concentrate its efforts in providing for the construction of a small extension and acquisition of neighboring properties. The Hilda Bessie Building, or New Building, as it was then known, was opened in 1970. This building still serves its original purpose to this day in housing the college's dining hall and graduate common room, as well as a great number of ancillary meeting rooms. The next major expansion of the college came in 1993 with the completion of a new building to house the Nissan Institute for Japanese Studies and the Bodleian Japanese Library, whilst additional accommodation was not supplied until the Founders Building was opened to mark the millennium in the year 2000. In recent years, not much development has taken place until completion of the college's new gateway buildings in 2013, which have greatly altered the estate and provided new world-class facilities to staff and students alike. The buildings provide a new main entrance to the college and form the east and final side of the college's first quadrangle. Furthermore, as part of its ongoing development program, St. Antony's has commissioned the construction of a new Center for Middle Eastern Studies. The Middle East Center, or Soft Bridge Building, has been designed by the renowned Iraqi-British architect Zaha Hadid. It broke ground on January 30, 2013 and was opened as the InvestCorp building on May 26, 2015. Student life and study. St. Antony's College has some 450 students from over 66 nationalities. About half of the students have a first language other than English. Student interests are represented by an elected body, the Graduate Common Room Executive, which is elected on an annual basis at the end of Michaelmas term. Students who live in are accommodated in a number of buildings of various eras. Most college accommodation is located on site, with around 104 en-suite bedrooms provided in the Gateway and Founders buildings. Further rooms are to be found in converted Victorian houses both on site and very close by. This expansion in the provision of rooms for students is a recent development at St. Antony's, which until recently was one of the few Oxford colleges characterized by a chronic lack of student rooms. As a result of this development, the college is now able to provide some of the highest quality postgraduate accommodation in the city. The college is host to the St. Antony's Late Bar, located on the ground floor of the award-winning Hilda Bessie building and serving students throughout the academic year. In addition to operating as a regular bar, it hosts numerous themed bops, culture, region, country nights, live music events, welfare, charity functions, various tastings and launch parties, among others. Popular recurring events include Halloween, USA Night, Latin Bop, Balkan Night, and the thrice-annual Drink the Bar Dry. libraries and publications. The main building, the former Holy Trinity Convent, which was built in the 1860s, houses the college's main library, Gulbenkian Reading Room, and the Russian and East European Study Center. The collective holdings of the main library and various center libraries comprise over 110,000 volumes, whilst subscriptions to current periodicals number about 300. The main library itself holds over 60,000 volumes and subscribes to over 100 current periodicals, with the general collections in modern history, politics, international relations and economics, the collections on Europe, Asia, and the non-Slavonic collections on Russia, the former USSR and Eastern Europe. It also houses some 20th-century archive collections, including the Wheeler-Bennett papers. St. Antony's is associated with the Oxford Library's information system, and has been a contributor to the university's online Union Library catalogue since 1990. The other library is on the college site of the Middle East Center Library, the Latin American Center Library, the Bodleian Japanese Library, and the Russian and Eurasian Studies Center Library, the last of which was recently refurbished as part of the college's rolling construction and rejuvenation program. The college also holds an extensive collection of archival material relating to the Middle East at the Middle East Center Archive, the premises of which are soon to be greatly expanded with the completion of Zaha Hadid's soft bridge building in mid-2014. The university's area studies libraries are unique within the university and thus generally open to all its students. Regardless of college affiliation, they typically hold a wide collection of primary language sources and further Anglophone texts, an abundance of specialist material and unique expertise which prompted Leslie Woodhead to comment as follows: "The college's Graduate Common Room has, since 2005, published a biannual academic journal entitled the St. Antony's International Review, which is more commonly known by its acronym, STARE. The journal represents a medium through which aspiring young academics can publish the work alongside their established policymakers and their peers. Furthermore, the college publishes a termly newsletter, The Antonian, and a College Record, an annual report on college affairs, sports and societies. This cosmopolitan cultural environment is further fostered by a communal dining hall and active sports clubs for football and rowing, in which sport the college club won the Nephthys and Christchurch regattas in 2011. Rankings as a postgraduate-only college, St. Antony's does not appear in the university's annual Norrington table. Traditions and attributes. St. Antony's students are not required to wear formal academic dress to any meal, although may choose to do so if they wish. What is more, the college does not maintain a permanent high table, instead choosing to serve high table meals on a number of occasions each week for the college's fellows and visiting academics. It is customary for students to be invited to dine at high table in the event that they have done the college proud through their own personal achievements or sporting prowess. Students do, however, often attend high table at the invitation of the supervisors or in the event that a visiting personage of academic interest to the student is being hosted by the college. Despite the above, St. Antony's remains a largely informal college, mandating the wearing of academic dress only for the university's matriculation and graduation ceremonies. As a graduate college, St. Antony's students play an important role in the day-to-day business of running the college through their elected body of representatives, the Graduate Common Room at GCR. coat of arms. The college's arms, granted in 1952, were designed in such a way so as to reflect the college's namesake, Antony, the Great of Egypt. The red represents the Red Sea, whilst the gold was chosen to reflect desert sands. The mullets were borrowed from the founder's trademark, whilst the T-shaped elements are traditional crosses of St. Antony. The heraldic blazon for these arms is as follows: or on a chevron between three tau crosses gules as many pierced mullets of the field. The college's motto, Plus est en vase, is sometimes added in complement to its arms. When this is the case, they are typically placed upon a scroll beneath the escutcheon. This version of the arms is most commonly found on the cover of St. Antony's papers, issues. The motto itself can be translated literally as "there is more in you," although it is commonly taken to imply the following English expression: "There is more to you than meets the eye." Grace St. Antony's is one of 9 colleges at the university to employ the two-word Latin grace. This is statistically the most popular form of grace said at all in Oxford and also in Cambridge, where it's used by 5 colleges. The grace is read out in 2 parts at the college's formal meals, which take place twice each term. The first half of the grace or antisibum is said before the start of the meal, and the second, the postsibum, once the meal has ended. It is read as follows: Benedictus benedictat, may the blessed one give a blessing. Benedicto benedicature, let praise be given to the blessed one. The grace is said in keeping with tradition. However, unlike most Oxford colleges, St. Antony's does not require its students to stand and acknowledge the saying of grace. The second half of the grace, a postsibum, can also be translated as "let a blessing be given by the blessed one." People associated with St. Antony's. Wardens. The first warden of the college was Sir William Deacon, a young Oxford academic who in the Second World War became an adventurous soldier and aide to Winston Churchill. He won Antony and Bessie's confidence and played the key role in turning his vision into the centre of excellence that St. Antony's has become. Sir Raymond Carr, a distinguished historian of Spain, expanded the college and its regional coverage and opened its doors to visiting scholars from all over the world. Sir Ralph Dorf came to St. Antony's after a distinguished career as a social theorist and politician in Germany, a European commissioner and director of the London School of Economics. He further enlarged the college and developed its role as a source of policy advice. The previous warden, Sir Marrick Goulding, served in the British diplomatic service for 26 years before becoming an Under-Secretary General at the United Nations. His appointment underlined the international nature of the college and its links with government and business. In July 2007, the 5th warden of the college, Margaret Macmillan, took up her position. Sir William Deacon, 1950 to 1968. Sir Raymond Carr, 1968 to 87. Sir Ralph Dorf, 1987 to 97. Sir Marrick Goulding, 1997 to 2006. Roger Goodman, October 2006, July 2007. Margaret Macmillan, 2007 present. Former students. St. Antony's alumni have achieved success in a wide variety of careers. These include writers, politicians, academics, and a large number of civil servants, diplomats, and representatives of international organizations. Former students with careers as politicians and civil servants include Alvaro Uribe, who was President of Colombia from 2002 to 2010, and his Minister of Foreign Affairs Jaime Bermudez, Yigal Allon, Deputy and Acting Prime Minister of Israel, the present European Commissioner for Economic and Monetary Affairs and the Euro and Vice President of the European Commission Olli Rehn, the UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon Sigrid Kaag, the former Secretary of State for Wales John Redwood, former EU Commissioner Jean Dondellinger, the Canadian politician John Godfrey, and Gary Hart, a former U.S. Senator and presidential candidate. Diplomats Joseph A. Priesel, Gustavo Bell and Shlomo Ben-Ami are also Antonians. Furthermore, Minouche Shafik, Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, is an Antonian, as a three-time Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Thomas Friedman and Pulitzer Prize-winning war correspondent Dexter Filkins. Further Antonians include Anne Applebaum, a former editor of The Economist, Yorgo Chatzimarkakis, member of the European Parliament, the Bulgarian communist Lyudmila Zhivkova, and Rhodes scholar Chrystia Freeland, a director at Thomson Reuters. In academia, Sir Christopher Bailey is the current president of St Catherine's College, Cambridge, whilst William Roger Lewis is co-chair in English History and Culture at the University of Texas at Austin. Francis Lannon is the principal of Lady Margaret Hall, Oxford. Richard J. Evans is the Regius Professor of Modern History at Cambridge. Anthony Venables holds Oxford's BP Professorship in Economics and held the position of Chief Economist at the UK Department for International Development. Paul Kennedy is the Dilworth Professor of British History at Yale. Rashid Khalidi, a professor at Columbia, and Michael T. Benson is the president of Southern Utah University. The college also counts the Olympic gold medal-winning swimmer Davis Starwater, the talented screenwriter Julian Mitchell, and its own current warden, Margaret Macmillan, amongst its alumni. Academics Timothy Garton-Ash, journalist and author on European matters. Mats Birdal, Professor of Security and Development at the Department of War Studies, King's College London. Archie Brown, historian of the end of the Cold War and author of The Gorbachev Factor. Paul Collier, Director of the Center for the Study of African Economies at Oxford. Michael Kaiser, economist and author of Soviet Economics. Homer Katuzian, literary critic and scholar of Iranian studies. Paul Kennedy, J. Richardson Dilworth, Professor of History, Director, International Security Studies, Yale University. Alan Knight, Post-Critical Historian, Director of the Latin American Center, and author of the two-volume award-winning book, The Mexican Revolution. William Roger Lewis, historian and scholar of the British Empire, especially decolonization. Calypso Nicolaides, Professor of International Relations and Director of the European Studies Center. Tariq Ramadan, Professor of Contemporary Islamic Studies. Robert Service, historian of the USSR and biographer of Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin. Avi Shlaim, historian writing on the Arab-Israeli conflict. Vivian Hsu, FBA, sinologist and author of The Reach of the State. Arnab Goswami, Indian journalist who was the editor-in-chief and news anchor of the Indian news channel Times Now. Hassan Bulent Paksay, historian and literary critic, especially of Central Asia. Omar Bartov, historian writing on genocide focused on the Holocaust, author of 7 books. Former Fellows Albert Aurani, Founder-Director, Middle East Center, St. Antony's College, Oxford. James Joel, historian, fellow. Sudipta Kaviraj, Professor of Political Sciences, Columbia University, New York. Frank McLean, historian and biographer. Tapan Raikordhuri, Emeritus Fellow, St. Antony's College, Oxford. Giulio Angioni, Italian writer and anthropologist. José Cutelero, Portuguese diplomat, historian, and author. Michael Ayres, leading Western authority on Bhutanese, Tibetan and Himalayan culture, husband of Burmese opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Gallery